Hey everyone, what is going on? This is Furgie here from A Squad, back with another Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited video, and today we are going to be looking at the third dungeon in the Ebonheart Pact. This is called Corinium, and it's in the southwestern part of Shadowfen. I guess it's some kind of ancient ruin which is now infested with Lamia. It's fairly annoying. There are some difficult bosses, but it's got a cool layout, it's got some cool fights, and generally it's a pretty good time, so let's jump right into it. Alright, so this dungeon is very redundant with the ads it uses. There are three ads you will face in this dungeon, and only three. There are Lamias, giant snakes, and lurchers. Now, there are a few different kinds of the Lamias. There are the healer ones called these Curies in the back, and these are the ones you're going to want to focus on first in all situations. All the other ads can heal themselves in little increments. The snakes can like eat themselves, and the other Lamias can reduce damage they take and things like that, but the Curies are the ones you want to take down quickly because they will heal the rest of the group in general and make things a lot harder on you. There are some gigantic packs of ads in this dungeon, so I would say if they go down, if the healers, the Curies go down quickly, then you can take down the rest pretty easily, but also watch out for the snakes because they eat themselves and can actually just pretty much keep their health stationary even if you're pounding a lot of damage into them. Now the final ad we're going to be looking at mostly in this dungeon is Lurcher. He's kind of an elite ad, but there's usually only one or two of them by themselves, so they're pretty easy to take down. If they're with other ads, it can be a little more difficult, but I wouldn't worry about them too much. So like I said, the entire dungeon is very redundant. As you go through these corridors and these tunnels, all the packs will consist of Lamias, snakes, and Lurchers. Now mostly it'll just be Lamias and snakes, and in small increments as well, but there are a few rooms which will have some more difficult challenges to face with some more increased power ads. Now the first boss we're going to look at here is the Fanged Menace. He is by far the easiest in the dungeon and does not do much. The only difficult part about this is getting rid of all of the ads that surround him right off the bat. There are quite a few of them. I want to say there are about 8 Lamias, and there are these ones at the top that won't actually pull on the fight either. But if you move him around enough, they will come down and you want to focus on them as well. He really only has 1 or 2 very distinctive moves. He has a pretty powerful frontal cone snap, which can take down whoever he's looking at in a few hits. And he's also got this gas bubble, I guess, he puts up around him in a giant AoE that keeps you from being able to get close. But besides that, he's very easy. I would just keep your distance from him, melee when that bubble's up, stay away, take down the ads first, and he should be a very easy first fight. Alright, so I won't be showing all of the ad engagements in here because, as I've said twice now, they're very redundant. I'm just showing one of the larger rooms on our way to the next boss. There are quite a few Lamia in here, and they're the Curies sitting in the back like that, so something you want to focus on is having your range pick them off in the back as the melee and the tanks focus on all of the melee Curies and the giant snakes. That'll just make things a lot easier. Another thing, I want to say thank you to this group here that's with me. A few of them are my level and a few of them are a little bit lower. Well, I guess one of them is my level and 2 of them are lower than me, but it was a pretty good run. I told them obviously I didn't need this for loot. And I just had so much trouble getting into this dungeon, more than the others already. It took me I tried to do this, in fact, through my actual Shadowfen run, and I could not find a group. It was just absolutely ridiculous. So good luck on finding a group on that. But next up we have Ganaktin the Tempest, and he is, I guess he's optional. I don't know if you have to necessarily pull him or not, but he's by himself, which is good, but he does do quite a bit of damage. He does a lot of damage to his current target, and he also throws out this gigantic lightning cone, as you'll see here in a moment. It one-hits one of our guys right there, and he's done. But so that would be the main move you want to avoid. He does a decent amount of auto-attack damage, but besides that, the Tempest is not too difficult to defeat. All these things are lower level than me and one of the other players, but the other 2 are doing just fine as well, even though he died right there. It's a very powerful hit. A few more packs of ads here as we progress on to the next boss. This dungeon, does include 1 optional boss that you can or cannot take down. It's really up to you and the rest of your group. She is fairly difficult and has 1 mechanic to her that can potentially wipe your group several times if you're not careful, so we'll talk about that when we get to her. We do end up killing her. It's a good fight though, and it's more loot and more XP, so I would highly suggest it. If you're doing the dungeon, then you don't really have to come back unless you want to farm it, I guess. And it's a good fight. It's a lot of fun. So as we progress into this more open part of the castle, after getting through a few of these tunnel systems, you're going to get to this kind of drawbridged area with some stone stairs up the side that are going to lead you to almost 2 bosses in a consecutive order. As you can see, there are some ads even here just sitting by themselves for no reason, but Once we get up to these stairs, we're going to take a right instead of a left to go to Slicklinia the Songstress. That's kind of a tongue twister. It's hard to say, a lot of these names are, but she's fairly difficult, and she does have this little pet snake with her. Right off the bat, I would say ignore the snake. It does do a decent amount of damage by itself, just running around hitting people, but if you kill her, the snake will go away, so I really wouldn't worry about it too much. Now, as you can see here, this is the main mechanic we want to focus on. She's going to go to the middle of the room and scream constantly like this, and slowly drop your health. As you can see there, we lost the same guy. He's just getting pretty unlucky, but and it's a lot of damage. So, and it gets more powerful as the fight goes on. So the important thing is a DPS check here and making sure you can kill her before she even gets to do that a second time. I would say it's definitely doable, but definitely not a third time. Your group will be dead by the time she's able to do that for the third time, along with her little pet snake there picking you guys off. But if you can kill her quickly, you're going to be able to avoid that mechanic, and this should be a fairly easy fight if you can survive the first round of her song, I guess. Alright, so exiting that room, we're going to go straight out, and then on the left, we are moving on to our next boss. This is the Matron Onyxia, something like that, and she's also fairly difficult. You don't have a lot of room to take her down. She can actually knock your players off of this bridge here that we're going to fight her on, so I would be mindful of that. Either stay behind her or at a distance where she can't knock you off with any of her moves. She does have quite a few electric kind of moves which have giant knockbacks. She's got a lot of adds here with her, so I would definitely clear those first. And honestly, it's not a terrible idea to pull her further onto the drawbridge and pull her all the way back, because she does not reset for a while. As you can see there, she is that big lightning AoE, which will paralyze whoever's inside of it, just like myself. And you do not want to get hit by that. She'll use that over and over and over again. And it also has a knockback move, which is how we had one of our players thrown completely off of this bridge. But you should be able to manage it. They might die down there on the impact. There's one you have to dodge. And they do progressively more damage as she throws them out. So I would just work on dodging those, and that's really the only mechanic she uses. Alright, moving on, a couple more packs of ads I didn't bother showing. We have the Ancient Lurcher, and he is very similar to Watchers, where he uses this kind of stun paralyzing beam that you'll see here. He casts on one player just like that, and you have to save your stamina in order to break out of that, or it will really drain you. As you can see there, we almost lost him. So I would focus on that, especially if you're using stamina moves. It's not usually a problem for me breaking out of CC like that, because I'm never using my stamina. But if you are, make sure you have enough to break out of that, or he will drain you all the way down, and he'll just move throughout the group and tick off player by player, and that is not something you want to happen. You want to have as little wipes as possible, save as many soul gems as you can. Alright, so now we have one more boss, and this is the final boss of the dungeon. This is the one everyone hates, and she said, and they say she's extremely difficult, but there are a couple things you can do to make her very easy. First of all, she does have a pretty big overshield, and that's something you want to pay attention to. Her health is a lot bigger than it looks. And also, she loves electricity, and where is she standing? Primarily in the water. So you got to think about it a little logistically, that if she's using electric type moves and she's in water, it's going to electrocute the entire little pool of water that's in this room. So, and you can see it being filled with the electricity. So I would just be mindful of that and keep on these little patches of land to the north, west, and east. The only problem with that is every once in a while she will use this gigantic AoE that covers up 2 of the islands. So you definitely want to move to the 3rd island. As you can see right here is exactly what she's doing. You definitely want to move to the 3rd island in order to avoid taking that damage. Her other move is she will quickly dash to a player and use this frontal cone scream on them. They can potentially one-hit them as well. Very powerful. JC Hunter is just getting very unlucky in this dungeon, getting hit by all those one-hits. But there, as you can see, the water is completely electrocuted. If you stand in that, it'll take you down pretty fast. So just make sure for the ranged, you're positioning yourself on an island. And if you're melee and she's in the water, I would just prefer you would probably prefer not to do damage as opposed to dying and taking all that electric damage. So you just kind of got to be smart on this fight, and it should be fairly easy. But that is the Lamia Queen, and basically that's about it. This is a really good dungeon. I think it's one of the more difficult ones so far. Darkshade Caverns and Fungal Grotto were decently difficult, but they weren't too hard, and it's kind of a good step up to what you're going to face in this dungeon. There's a lot more. I mean, there's a few more mechanics per boss, more things that can kill you, more things you got to pay attention to, and you got to think a little smarter. Now, obviously, this is still not near as difficult as any veteran dungeon, or anything we'll even be looking at later in the game. The Vault of Madness and Cold Harbor, we'll definitely get to that. But besides that, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope this was an informative video. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun in ESO, taking down those dungeons, getting all that loot. all that jazz. And thank you all for watching. We will see you all next time back on ESO. Be looking out for a lot more videos and all 3 factions.